Our rule is always keep your friend close if they have oil. Keep your enemy closer if they have oil. So, welcome back, everyone. Last time I talked about Syria, and today it's been like almost 5 months after Assad's fall. So, how did the country do after Assad? And is there any progress to measure? We're talking about the diplomatic progress. Inside progress we're doing, because remember, like, we talked about how there is no almost electricity, there is no functioning roads in Syria because most of the roads were being used by the military, which people couldn't use before. What is this stream about? Okay, why now? I mean, you know, guys, Donald Trump does like 100 days into presidency, so we're just doing 5 months after Assad's fall. What changed after Assad? Basically, a space to reflect, learn, and ask questions if you guys do have, because I've received lots of questions, and that's why I'm making this stream to answer these questions. I put like, I think 20 slides where we'll be talking about almost everything. Syria under Assad, a dictatorship defined by fear, and we've mentioned this in the previous video where we've been talking about Syria. Around 1.5 million political prisoners were being held in Syria at one point. If we're talking about how many they were present during that time, we're talking about 7 million people entered the prison and left literally for a public opinion. It doesn't have to be against the government. If it can be understood, or like it can be explained, or like if it can be explained as, oh, this can be against the government, if the government makes the decision that was actually a criticized to the government. As an example, if you curse a leader and the government can be like, oh, I think he's using the word leader here as a metaphor, so that can be politically enough to throw you in jail for like ages. So, dictatorship, we're talking about one man ruling, silencing everything in the country for the past. It's not just him. His father before him was even worse. We're talking about Syria ever since 1970 until 2025. We're talking about 55 years, almost 55. I think it's 54 to be more accurate. We talked about this more in the previous video. Mass surveillance and fear. We're talking about mukhabarat. What does the word mukhabarat? Mukhabarat is like some sort of FBI agency, intelligence agency, yeah, you could say. So the thing in Syria, the military in Syria was around 450,000 soldiers, right? But the intelligence we're talking about, there is no accurate number, but numbers ranging between 1.5 to 2.5 million secret officer working for the government. Like Mossad equivalent, you could say that. So we're talking about between 1.5 to 2.5 million secret service people that literally just have one job, which is taking reports of everything being told in the on the streets. Whatever people say, and can be understood or translated as a way of criticizing or judging the government, that's enough. That's literally enough to arrest you forever. Political oppression, arrest of journalists, activities, and civilians. So there was no free journalism in Syria. You might some people in the West always be like, oh, do you think there is free journalism in the West? But it's like, it's not even comparable. In Syria, there was four channels that can, 4 media channels that work on the ground, and one is owned by, 2 owned by the Syrian government, 1 owned by Hezbollah, and 1 owned by Iranian government. Those were the only 4 media outlets that work on the ground, and they all deliver the same image, that Assad is fighting the American imperialism, and there is a mass conspiracy around him because he is the last person to defend against the American imperialism. Okay, that's literally like their main propaganda. The human toll, what the Assad regime left behind. So Assad regime is done after December 8th, 2024. So this is like the official numbers, but it's not accurate. As an example, I will give you this. When I was in Syria, I worked with documenting casualties. So when you document a casualty, they don't accept that documentation unless you mention their name with their father name and pretty much everything about that person, and you document it with a photo, and then when you report that, they accept that as a number. If you don't report all of these things, it's not accepted. As an example, we're talking about documented people. We're talking about 112 forcibly disappeared people during Assad. The correct number is around, we're talking about 602, ranging between 600 and 1.5 million people disappeared in Syria. Women, children included. Notorious sites like Saydnaya prison and Tadmor. Those were like the main two prisons in Syria where like people enter there and they just never leave. What happens? Nobody knows. All we know is that they found two mass graves that were people saying that this is where they used to bury the bodies. And they brought a Japanese team. And the Japanese team estimated the number of dead bodies in that area by 400,000. That's just in one place, which is, I think it's in the west of Damascus. At least 1,300 confirmed death under torture. This is also like the documented names. The number is around 150,000 that died under torture, like while being tortured. The 600 into 1.5 million aren't just like under torture. Like you could die in prison. So that's like the number. This number is under torture. 100,000 non-official sources. Now, here's something I want to talk about, which is Caesar photos. If you guys know anything about Caesar photos, have you heard about it? There is something called Caesar law. They leaked, basically, an officer who was working with the secret Syrian agency have leaked 53,000 images of tortured bodies. That person was working, like when the government kills someone under torture, they send that dead body to this person, and this person has to document it. And that person at one point fled Syria with 53,000 of images of tortured body. This is literally just until between 2011 and 2013. And we call it Caesar images because that person have worked hard with the Congress during Obama and Trump's first period just to try to get something to punish Assad's regime based on those photos, because those photos were like a real proof that 53,000 people have died under torture. I will come and talk about Caesar photos later in this video, or in this slides. Displacement, we're talking about 6.7 million displaced inside Syria, 5.6 million fled Syria. So Syria's population is around ranging between 22 and 25 million. So we're talking about half of that population being displaced, either inside or outside. Justice and accountability ongoing after ongoing efforts by international groups. So lots of international teams supported by UN trying to document all of these. The problem with UN documentation is like they will document it, but nothing will happen after, just like everything that the UN does. They will document it and nothing will ever happen. As an example, UNRWA. You guys know UNRWA? It's an organization works with the Palestinians to help the Palestinian refugees, as an example. So they will have the numbers, they have everything, but there won't be any outcome coming from that. Independent institution for missing persons in Syria. I've actually tried to connect with those people. The problem with this is like similar to UN. It's like UN is good at documenting, but nothing will come after that, and they won't let you use these numbers for political reasons. And so it's like documenting something for no use. Just to give you guys like an idea about how Syria looked like November 27, December 8, and now. Okay, so November 27, HTS. Do you guys know what HTS? HTS is a military group that worked with Al-Qaeda at one point, but they were coordinating also with the CIA to make sure that they won't be fighting the US or NATO at one point, because they were like a side of Al-Qaeda that didn't want to fight the NATO and the US. We will come to talk about that later. HTS basically was the main like militant group that fought Assad. There was a bunch of also other groups that fought Assad, but the freedom fighters, the problem with the freedom fighters, who was worse? Assad or Gaddafi. Gaddafi looks so cute comparing to Assad. The thing about Gaddafi had so many political enemies that they just exposed him in 2 days. That was like the main thing. But Assad, like the country was so closed that people don't know what's going inside. Gaddafi was open, like he opened Libya. You can go to Libya and see what's going on. And he was just like a crazy person. Like the movie literally is so close to the Gaddafi's personality. So HTS was here, a bunch of freedom fighters, as I would say. But the problem with the freedom fighters, they at one point get spoiled by the West money. Sorry, guys. They got lots of money from the West to the point where like they got so spoiled. We're talking about similar to the Afghani army that was supported by the US. They were giving them so much money that they don't even need to fight or to train or do anything. Okay, so this is like kind of a harsh reality. Okay, that's why the Afghani military could not fight against Taliban, because they were so spoiled with money that they don't even need to fight or train or to do anything. So they were paid to do something that is basically nothing. So November 27, it looks like this. December 8, HTS had a plan where like they wanted to take Aleppo, then Hamad, then Homs, this area right here, as you guys can see. And then they found out, due to something called Caesar law, which was approved by Donald Trump in his first period, no one was able to help Assad from his allies such as Iran, Hezbollah, and Russia, because all of the weapon embargo, like all the weapon deals were basically prevented. So there was no way that Assad will get support. So on December 8th, you see this small group here was ruling this entire area here. And I will talk about this and this later. Okay, what does yellow mean? Yellow is like a bunch of Kurdish fighters that were supported by the NATO to fight ISIS. But did they actually fight ISIS? Well, I mean, it says in the media that they fought ISIS. But mainly was the US Air Force actually attacked ISIS. But if they did fight ISIS, why there is still a white area here? The white area here is basically also ISIS, by the way, because there is a bunch of oil fountains. We're talking about one of the biggest oil fountains in the world. I think the third in the world is in this area right here. One is here, and a couple are here. So the US were only interested to fight ISIS in this yellow area right here. Just right here. So here, we don't care about them. This is a desert. There is no oil. We don't need them. There is oil here. Okay, let's fight them. And reports saying that by doing that, US were taking oil for free. How it happened, basically HTS put like a plan on defeating Assad. So at this point, Syria became like this, and past couple days, the current government also took those two white areas. So with Syrians, the new Syrian government still doesn't control this white area plus this yellow area from here and above. You guys see it? This yellow area is with the current government now. This is still like they are still trying to make some deals with the Kurdish. They are like still working with the Kurdish, because there is like a huge conflict between the Kurdish here, because like the main Kurdish party is like 80% Arabs, and they want to represent the Arabs and the Kurdish, which doesn't make sense, because the Kurdish in this area are like 20% and the other 80% are Arabs. And the Arabs were like, the Kurdish were supported by the US and they have weapons. The Arabs were like oppressed by the US in this area and they don't have weapons. So technically they couldn't fight them back. So it's like basically like, it's extremely difficult to understand the situation in this area. Maybe we'll do it in another day. Today is just like a general idea. If you guys want me to dive into these, I can try to make another video.